What's going on, everybody? This is our first impressions of watching Miami commit Frankie Tinilau in action. It was great to see him, Gabby. First off, just talk about his background. He's a very interesting guy, and when we kind of chatted about it, and we haven't gotten into our full discussion, so I'm looking forward to this. But when we talked about it, just this day and age, you don't see this kind of hidden gem, so to speak, in the recruiting world where everyone just knows about everybody. But Frankie, interesting story, playing at Salle now, originally from Australia. Can you just tell people about his background, kind of where he's coming from and where he's been?
Yeah, no, I mean, really, I mean, it's true. I mean, really interesting storyline. I mean, a kid that kind of started playing football in the States in California, obviously a global pandemic, sent him back to Australia, kind of threw off his timeline. I think he was originally supposed to be a 2022 recruit. So he is a little bit older in terms of some of his classmates. It's like 20, like Miami has like Connor Liu, who's like a 16-year-old senior right now. And then you got Frankie Tinilau, who's, on the upper side of, the 2023 class, someone who might be 19 by the time he gets to Miami. So, but again, it's all a part of the journey and everything with him. Again, just with the visa issues and of course everything that kind of got so blurry with the pandemic, he had to go back home. He was playing like adult league rugby, doing that type of stuff. So he has that background. Now it's just really got into football. I think he was kind of like a two-way player, defensive lineman, offensive lineman. Kind of found that offensive line was going to be his spot, and it was really interesting how Mario Cristobal, Alex Murrow all really trusted an evaluation because they got him on campus and offered him really just based on what they saw physically. And Chris, I mean, we both saw him yesterday. I think it's easy to see why you can look at him and being like, you know what, that's a project worth bringing into the program and developing. And now that he's kind of here, his senior year is coming out. I know he's ready for his film to get out there. I think other schools could potentially get involved, but overall, it's been an interesting journey for Frankie Tinilau. I'm sure he's gonna tell his story one day, and that's gonna be something people are gonna be really, really interested in when they hear it come from his mouth. So yeah, really, really cool story. And now is officially in Dade County and gearing up for this last year of football.
Yeah, a guy from Brisbane there in Australia. I know he's got a lot of fans back home there. It is interesting. We both got a chance to see him in person, last month at this recruiting event that they had. And that's the thing that you see initially, right? When you see him 6'5", 315 is what he's listed at. It feels like all of it.
Yeah.
He's definitely feels like 6'5", probably, even 6'6". I mean, he's got a big size to him, big frame. And, I want to touch on, again, LaSalle held a scrimmage. We were able to get over there and check him out. And his first time, seeing him in person. So, we're going to get into his game, but I want to talk about his personality because this is a big guy.
Yeah.
He seems to have this big personality. I had a lot of fun filming him and talking to him and the whole thing. And I was able to get there pregame. I was the only one out on the field by the time I got to the school. And for people that don't know, LaSalle's not a high profile program in Dade County. It's not a well-known, it just pumps out a ton of people. But Gabby, we touched on it briefly. That setting over there with the football stadium, it looks really cool. It's just kind of a cool environment. I know they got good coaches over there, but big personality out of Frankie. One of the things I noticed too, kind of just watch him because again, zeroed in on him on everything he was doing, but his teammates really seem to gravitate towards him. They really like him, rooting for him. He's just one of those guys that they're really happy for. It seems like, again, just kind of watching it and seeing how he interacted with fans or with his teammates.
Yeah, it was really cool. He definitely has. I mean, a big personality is definitely one way I would describe him. A confident kid. And I think that comes from a place where, again, kind of giving the background, everything that he's gone through. Like, when I met him for the first time, the day that Miami offered him, you can tell he had that chip on his shoulder. Like, I've been through so much. Like, I just want to get past this season. And that was him having to go back home and wait out the visa issues to come back to the States and get rolling here. And, I feel like he carries that with him. He always feels like, he knows he has something. Like, he has that confidence where he believes he can be a good player, but he still feels like he always has something to prove. And you want that. You want a guy who's coming in there and feels like, he has to make those daily deposits to be where he wants to be as a player, to get that respect that maybe some of these other guys. Chris, what was he telling you? 3-star, 4-star, 5-star. You guys will see it all in the clip. But he's someone that definitely carries himself in a confident manner and believes that he can be that guy. And again, the teammates gravitate towards him. The coaches I feel like are pushing him, when they're doing, even the conditioning drills after, they're constantly on him. And, everyone around the program believes he's a special talent. And, I think it's just kind of the best is yet to come for him, maybe more of a developmental guy down the line. But I think if he puts it all together, I think Miami has a chance to have a good one on their hands.
Their season's going to get started here very shortly, and he's excited about the list of opponents they're going to face. And that's one of the things that LaSalle doesn't necessarily always play high profile games, but just looking at their schedule, I mean, they're playing Booker T, Northwestern, Pace, Belen, names in Dade County that you know about. So that'll be good. It'll be a good test for him. He's got to get better. I think he's got to improve and really adapt to everything. But, it's going to be up to him. Like you said, confident guy. I know in kind of chatting with him, he's excited to prove what he has, and also feels like he does have this background where he's played against older players,
Yeah.
adult league stuff as a young guy. So he feels like, he's ready to go. Gabby, let's talk about what we saw.
Yeah.
Now we've talked about what we've, kind of been around him and kind of seeing him, but just on the field, and again, zeroed in on him. He stands out. I joked when you got there, which one's Frankie? I mean, Frankie, which one Frankie is. He's
Yeah.
77. He's the tallest, biggest guy out there. But they do have other guys. They have a defensive lineman that he was going up against quite a bit. Daryl Melendez there, so that's a good matchup. But
Yeah.
just kind of initial impressions, or just kind of what stands out to you when you watch him play.
Yeah, I think it's just, the mass, right? The size. I mean, again, that's something that you can't teach. That's natural. That's given to you. So again, I think that's something that just naturally gives him an advantage. I think that's always going to give him a chance. And again, kind of like what I alluded to earlier, it's easy to see why, offensive line guys like Cristobal, Mirabal look at him and be like, yeah, I want him in my program. But, I view him as more of a developmental guy. I think he's still learning, kind of like the fundamentals of the offensive line position. Hand placement, I think, is something he needs to be working on. Leverage, I think, Dario Melendez, he's going to Coastal Carolina. He's not a very big guy, but, he's kind of aggressive. And, I feel like he's got some push. He's got a nice little lower half. He kind of got under Frankie one time. Frankie was still able to kind of like top him over a little bit, but you want to, it's like low man wins. You want to get that, you want to get your hands down there. And if he got him down there, I mean, he just would have absolutely dominated those reps. So I think it's little things like that he's going to have to clear up. His feet, I don't know if he necessarily has tackle feet. I think he could be I think his future projects, even at the collegiate level as a guard. And that's, people hear that and might think that that's a bad thing. But I mean, you need those interior sort of road graders. I think that he can be that. He can move around a little bit. He's got to be, I think, a little bit more willing at times when he's trying to get to the second level in terms of being a tackle. There was one rep where I know the head coach Helder Valle got on him because kind of nudged the pass rusher to try to get to that second level. He wants him to really kind of push him off there. He wants to see a more assertive push there and then get to that second level to where the linebackers are so they can do what they needed to do there. So I think little things like that are just things he's going to have to clean up. I think, with him, you're looking 2-3 years down the line. I think, redshirt sophomore, redshirt junior year, I think that's when you're going to see, hey, let's see if Frankie Tinilau is ready to go. Because again, I think it's just so much fundamental stuff that I think is still ahead of him. And I think, again, that's more of a product of his environment, right? Like where he's been, where he's come from. And again, I think there's a lot of natural raw strength. I was talking to the strength and conditioning coach, and he said that the first day he got there was a shot put on the ground. And he asked us like, oh, what is this, coach? And he's like, oh, it's a shot put. Like, here's how you throw it. And apparently he just on a whim just threw it for the first time, apparently broke a school record that's been standing for like forever. So there's a lot of natural strength. And they think he could be a state champion in the shot put when they actually teach him to do it and all that. So there's a lot of raw ability, but I think there's still so much refining that needs to go into, his game in terms of his development and being a major college football contributor. But I'm sure a lot of coaches, not only at Miami, probably across the country too, are going to see some of the film that comes out, this fall when I'm sure he's going to, push out that first highlight tape against Archbishop Carroll and see what he gets back. And I wouldn't be surprised if more schools come calling.
You touched on his strength, and certainly those are great attributes to have. One of the things I noticed too, Gabby, was his flexibility. I was watching him stretch, just kind of going through regular stretching. Again, when you're zeroed in on just one guy, essentially,
Yeah.
you're just kind of watching everything. And I thought his flexibility looked good. For a big guy like that, I thought that looked good. And certainly when we're talking about him, yes, he's got room to grow. He's got to get better and adjust in the whole thing. And it'll be up to him, in terms of getting to that point. You touched on something with the aggression there. I felt like I saw it at times at the scrimmage. I also took it to a little bit of the setting. It was a scrimmage. Referees didn't show up, or whatever was going on there. I think things you could see he definitely has the aggression, whether it was
Yeah,
every single snap. No, it wasn't there, but that doesn't mean he's not going to be an aggressive player
for
against
sure.
opponents. It feels like, we'll see how he does in games when everything's cranked up. And I just felt like his energy was there at
No
times,
doubt.
just talking. I mean, he was just excited to get it going, and he did. We did see it. It's not like he wasn't an aggressive player.
Oh,
It's
for
just
sure.
it's just going to be different during the season. I think that'll be fun to watch. And again, some of those teams that I mentioned, that's later on in the schedule. So he's going to
Yeah.
have a full season to kind of get this thing going and understanding what it takes. And again, I like his, again, he kind of commands the room type of guy. Like he's feels like the man, you know what I mean?
Oh,
Sometimes
yeah.
we see these guys and they kind of, I wouldn't say shy away from it, but he definitely embraces everything, and all about it. And so the work ethic and all that stuff will determine, him moving forward. But yeah, in terms of guard tackle, we saw him too, even doing some snapping, and I saw him working on
Yeah.
that. So not that he projects as a center, but certainly a guy and that's what they like at Miami, this cross training stuff, where they can do different things. So he's just working on that, and it helps out his team snapping there. But yeah, the guard stuff, the aggression will have to be there all the time. Yeah, the footwork on tackle, we'll see if he can really get to that point. He's going to be behind in certain developmental things with other guys, but there's no saying he can't get to that point, like you said, a few years down the road or whenever they might be. And I think Miami, the way it's working, they don't need it's going to be where they don't need guys immediately anyways. So if they're, to continue to recruit and pile up the players there. So it was fun. I think that was my big takeaway, Gabby, is I enjoyed it.
No
Again,
doubt.
the scrimmage setting, good fans, kind of coming out there. And
Yeah.
like I said, the setting was great, but anything to wrap with that kind of stood out to you, Gabby, as we wrap this thing up, that just to add with Frankie? And they do have, a couple other 24s on defense that, it's not a defensive lineman, but, going against Tarquez Lee and Tarquez, the linebacker. So he's going to get that rush, kind of seeing where he's at on the defense, a 24 kid, and Lavarius Stanford a corner again. So he's going to see like a little bit of some talent there at defense. So I think that's going to be good.
Yeah, Charquez Lee's a guy that I kind of like, and he was playing a lot of like sort of like Mike linebacker. They put him off. They put him on the edge one time. He got straight to the backfield, recovered a fumble. I would have loved to see a Frankie Tinilau and Charquez Lee go at it, because just to see how he responds to that speed rush. Because obviously that's something that's going to test him. And I feel like just my parting thoughts was just kind of like, just knowing that he was going to LaSalle again. Chris, you said it early in the show. It's not a school that you typically think of when you think of, South Florida, major high school football down here. But, kind of looking through that schedule, I'm really encouraged about the fact that he's going to play against Booker T. Washington, Miami Edison, who has a 24 defensive lineman who could potentially be a Power 5 guy. That's a matchup that, I could see, playing out well, playing at Northwestern, again, Jackson, who has a Ty Clean and Ty Cool Hill, Lumen, who are, again, 224s that, have some juice on the defensive line as well. They performed well out of Miami camp. So he's going to see some of the competition I would want him to see at the high school level. I think it'll be a really good, I think those will be great opportunities to see him respond to those types of, in those situations in a competitive setting like that. So I'm excited that it's not just Florida Christian and Ransom Everglades and, random schools like that, Archbishop Carroll's, that he's actually going to, match up with some of these top programs, here in Dade County. So those are probably my parting thoughts. And I think we'll be able to get a solid eval on Tinilo before, Penn meets paper in December.
Gabby, I appreciate you taking the time to do this. Everybody keep checking out the channel and obviously the website, InsideTheU.com, for plenty more information on Frankie and all the other top recruits. All right, Gabby, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah, thanks, Chris.